session after coming out of closed session. I would really appreciate if you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very, very much. Welcome everybody to the April 26th meeting of your District 118 Board of Education. After a beautiful day, it is so nice to see you all this evening. That we do not, we do. We have a discipline motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President, I move that we uphold the findings of the board with the resolution authorizing student disciplinary action in case number 232834S.
Thank you. Have a second?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. No.
Yes.
Yes, motion passes 5-1. Pardon me?
We amend the agenda.
Okay. We're going to that now. Item number 5 is the agenda approval. We are going to amend the agenda by deleting item 10B. Are there any other further additions or corrections? Great.
Move to approve.
What?
I move to approve.
Oh, and then we're gonna go back into closed session.
Yeah,
No additional
I'm sorry. Yes, there is another one. We are going to go back into closed session after this. There are a couple items that we need to take care of. Obviously, we're gonna go back into closed session, which means we're not gonna take any further action on anything, and we'll do it after the meeting, so that's it. So, closed session at the end of this, and item 10B out. I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion passes 6-0. We're missing Pastor Miller this evening. We'll catch him at the next meeting. That brings us to, is there anything you want to highlight in that we just passed? No? No, we're good. That brings us to item number, should be public comment,
6.
You
and,
wanna have a comment first?
no, I think we'll just, everybody will be civil this evening, so we shouldn't have any problem. What's our time limit this evening? 5 minutes, okay? And for those who haven't been here before, to the podium, the microphone at the podium is only for online, so you don't really have to speak in it. It's not gonna amplify your voice in here. And you have 5 minutes. Who is first? Good evening.
Good evening. Hi. Good evening, Dr. Geddes, ladies, gentlemen of the board. My name is Jenny Long. I am a Spanish teacher at Danville High School and chair of the foreign language group. And I'm just here because I wanted to say thank you all very much for approving the international travel requests that we have for June of 2025. Just so people know, in the past, you guys have allowed me the opportunity to lead a group to Costa Rica back in 2018. That was a great trip. And then you all approved a trip to Germany, France, and Spain that we were supposed to take in 2020, but we all know how that year went, and it's been postponed multiple times, and we leave in 50 days. We're finally going to be taking off for that trip. So we have a great group going. We're very excited about that. And now, in 776 days, student, staff, and whoever wants to will take off on this next adventure. We'll be flying into Rome. We'll explore that city as well as Florence, and then go along the southern coast of Spain, and also Barcelona in Spain. the southern coast of France, and then we'll go to Barcelona in Spain. I'm excited for our travelers to see these beautiful places, experience the rich cultures, and meet wonderful people. Students in language classes will have the opportunity to practice their language skills with native speakers. We teachers are excited about that too. Always good to speak with the native speakers and meet great people. But the trip will be open to anyone, doesn't have to be a language student. So anybody in the district, who want to come along. We'll look forward to doing a variety of fundraisers for the trip. In the past, we have done parking and face painting for Balloons Over Vermilion. We've done 50/50 raffles. We've sold a variety of things. And basically, as soon as people start signing up, we'll have 2 years to start fundraising. So hopefully that will help more people be able to come along. So we do hope to get a big group, students, family, staff, admin, board members. Any and all are welcome. On May 9th, I will be hosting an informational meeting over at Danville High School. However, those who would not be able to make that will be able to contact me in many different ways. And I just want to say thank you for granting us this opportunity and the chance to give these kids a great opportunity.
Do you have a number of, how big of a group can you take?
There really is no limit. We're traveling through a company called Explorica that we've traveled with the last couple of years, and basically there is no limit. The limit is just the fact that, like, for example, once we get over there, if there's tour buses or charter buses, we might need more than one. But I want to say the biggest group we've had was about 30, and we were all able to fit into one vehicle. So,
That's great.
but as many as want to will be welcome along. And honestly, as few also. The year we went to Costa Rica, we ended up with only 2 other students, and we got combined with a school from California and another school from Iowa. And that was fun too. Got to make some new friends across the United States. But so group size does not matter. All right. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Have fun.
Will do.
Betsy Ford.
Good evening, Dr. Gittison, board. I will not be 5 minutes. I'll be lucky if I'm 1 minute because I don't care to stand up here too long. So I am going to just talk to you a little bit about the track meet. So we have our usual 4th grade track meet. All the 4th graders in the district will be competing on May 10th at 3:30. We'll be at the Danville High School track. We are preparing, we're doing a lot of preparations for the track meet. We have Officer Llewellyn, who will be there with us. We will have our gatekeeper. We're going to use the, do we call it a metal detector?
Weapons detector.
Weapons detector, thank you. We'll be using the weapons detector. We will have all of our administrators there and available for what we need, so we will not be in charge of running, like being timers. We'll be available for needs. We did have a terrible experience, obviously, at the 4th grade basketball tournament, so we are taking this very seriously. So we have met several times. I'm working with Mr. Mark. Bases, thank you. Working with Mr. Bases to make sure that we have all the things that we need for the track meet, and I'm excited for it. I think it'll be a wonderful time, wonderful day. So May 10th at 3:30, just wanted the board and Dr. to know we are taking care of things, and we will have everything handled, and it'll be a great day for our 4th graders. So come join us if you will. Oh, and also we're going to be doing tickets, so that's become a good thing. Each 4th grader will receive 4 to 5 tickets for their family, so you can only enter if you have a ticket, which is that will help a lot. So I think we've learned a lot, and we'll do the right thing moving forward. So that's what I have. Any questions or? Okay, thanks. Told you I wasn't even a minute.
Dr.
Circle.
Dr. Ashton, members of the board, I'm Ron Surfos, and I'm here as a disenfranchised voter for a 2-year term on the Board of Education. I believe we all know that we just had an incomplete election for the Board of Education at Danville District 118. How this happened and how we prevent it from ever happening again is the first question. And the follow-up is, how will you as a board appoint the vacant seat that will occur when you reorganize on May the 10th. Tracking down how this ballot occurred is difficult. In my opinion, this may have begun when you appointed 2 members to fill the unexpired terms of Mr. Davos and Mr. Henderson. When the new members were appointed to their positions, I believe there was no designation for 2 or 4-year terms. They were just appointed to the board. I could not ascertain if the official form from the county clerk was used for each member or if there was any designation of term for the office. Obviously, there was confusion, but the ultimate responsibility is in your hands and the board secretary. Press often reported that no one drew a petition for a 2-year term, and that's the reason that it didn't appear on the ballot. It is my observation that the reason no one petitioned for the 2-year term is that no one knew at the time that there was a 2-year term. And I wonder if even the board knew that there was a 2-year term at that time. I would suggest to the board that you adopt a procedure whereby in September, before an election in April, you adopt a resolution that defines the open positions on the board and the term of how long they will be, how long that term lasts. I encourage you to use your previous procedure and take applications, indicating the openings for the election in the April election. This creates a document that is official, and the Board of Education should then request confirmation that the intergovernmental document was appropriately received by the appropriate election officials. The second and more important result of this incomplete election is that when reorganization occurs, there will be a vacancy on the board. How you do this and how you appoint to that will be very important to those of us who were disenfranchised voters. Because what's at stake here is your credibility. Will you use a procedure that you have in the past where you've asked for applications and then chose a member of the board? Or will you use another procedure that you might have to go back and reappoint people to 2- and 4-year terms so that you can use a legal method to surpass the public? I think your credibility is what's at stake here in how you decide to appoint the next member of this board. Thank you very much.
My name's Tom Mellon. I'm a citizen. I used to be on this board, and my sympathy is with you, but I would like to give this to Dr. Ashton. Okay. I think that would solve some of Dr. Surfass's concerns. What I've given you is what the standard at the clerk's office is for noting new members. You'll note on that document, it says 2 years, 4 years. It's a fill in the blank. It's not extremely confusing. And the other document is the one that the board submitted. And that one has both members on it. It doesn't say for any term. And it says that those 2 people, one was Mr. Parks and I can't see the sign there. The other gentleman were done at April. It says until April. It doesn't say through April. So I would say that right now, those 2 appointments are gone because expired by the terms that you placed upon them. The problem is that you made a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. You didn't file with the clerk in the county the fact that it was a 2-year term up. Didn't happen. So as Dr. Surfass says, we didn't have a vote. Now you have our vote. Now, this board does not have the vote because there's no vacancy. Now, you can go through mental gymnastics to say maybe that doesn't say what it does say. Maybe we can have somebody else come in. But I would point out that of those 2 people, Mr. Parks thought he was running for a 4-year term, He signed up for a 4-year term. Nobody questioned that. Nobody on this board figured it out. Superintendent, anybody. No, you just put it out there. He ran and he finished dead last. Now, what we want is some credibility from this board saying, yeah, we made a mistake. We're going to fix it. You've got a fix-it mechanism already. The last time when you appointed these two folks, and you should follow that procedure. This particular group of board members has no authority to make a replacement because you don't have any vacancies. And I am asking, hoping, demanding as a citizen that you follow that policy. We want to have some say in the people on that board. There are a lot of different things going on with you guys. Lots of them concern me. Lots of it concern this community. Have some credibility. Follow your procedures. Don't try to backdoor us because we're watching. I thank you for your efforts, and I hope everything's going to work out well. Thank you.
Hey, my name is Tony Town. I have 2 children in the district, and I'm a concerned citizen as well. The job of a board member is not easy. It is very demanding. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. You have several things that you are in charge of. I've pulled up your oath and conduct here just to kind of help me understand what it is you're doing there. I'm on 2 boards. I know I have roles when I'm there. The first one I'd like to talk about is to ensure a continuous assessment of student achievement and all conditions affecting the education of our children in compliance with state law. To me, that says we should be looking at our test scores, our state test scores. And I don't think that's been brought up in a meeting for a long time. And I know you're going to cry, COVID. And yes, COVID did affect our scores, but that was 3 years ago. So how are our kids doing? What can we improve on? There's also been a 100-page survey that got shoved under the table, because it had some things that did not look good for our district. And that seems to be paramount, and that's stated in the survey. Liz Small, who conducted the survey, Small Insights, she had some points that said some frustrations with the district. Most wish that their frustrations could be addressed more regularly. Most people felt that, and when I say people, there were kids, students, teachers, other faculty, administrators, and I am not sure if she interviewed you as well, board members, and you, Dr. Geddes. I don't know that for sure. But most people wish that there was not, or said that there was not enough intentional discussion of how they were doing, and many wish that an honest discussion would be viewed not as complaining or causing a trouble, but more of just a point to start making some changes. Most wish for more inviting atmosphere to air grievances. So when there are issues and you are an employee and you're looking to get some help with what's going on and to air your opinions about what's going on, I feel that there should be some positive and at least open door issues. And I'm a little bit off track because I have a lot to say. So I would like to say that I'm going to go back to the points of our students' scores. Could we please see those? Having full potential means trying to have as many classes available to the students at the high school as possible. I know kids could not take any certain science classes this year. There were not enough teachers to provide all the science classes. There were teachers that got moved from what their specialty was to a different specialty. They made it work, but that was not, if they were a biology teacher, they were asked to teach chemistry, and that wasn't her forte. And she was doing it the first time with these students. She did a great job. She tried her best. But there's lack of teachers for filling positions. There are not enough classes for kids to get to their full potential. That's what you as a board are supposed to do, is help to ensure they get to their full potential. Part of that also is to not pass someone if they didn't achieve the minimum in that classroom. And if it looks bad because you held back 20% of the class, you've got to do it. You can't pass them on and expect them to do okay in the next class when they don't have the skills to get past the class that they were in. And that's going to continue, and it's going to snowball. And when they get out there to a job and they can't count change back to me because they didn't pass their math class, they were passed on when they shouldn't have been, that's not on them. That's on you. That's on the teachers. That's on the administration. And it's sad. And I don't want to live in a town that has kids coming out that cannot count change back to me. It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. A lot of things in this survey say that looks were more important than substance. And I think we need to look at that, and filling this position, then this new board member, this is huge. This is a person that's going to be a part of that and a part of all of the roles that you are supposed to have as a board member to give the students the best that you can give them. And if there's anything going on that would be considered. Okay, I'll come back next week, next month. Thank you.
May 10th.
Good evening, Board. I'm Lisa Behrens. You've seen me here before, but I just wanted to piggyback on what Mr. Surfoss and Mr. Mullen said, too. It just raises the question over and over and over that I keep coming here with, is accountability and the lack of. You guys suck at your job most of the time when it comes to the details in the policies. We've got Ms. Schroeder still voting in the consent agenda, and she profits from items in the consent agenda. I brought that up a couple meetings ago, and it's still happening. It's like nobody wants to play by the rules. No accountability. And this whole fiasco regarding the voting and the lack of communication or what you provided to the election board regarding the number of seats available or the terms is icing on this whole thing. It's ridiculous. I sit on a board locally with a local club, and one of the very things I do as a secretary is I make sure I know the terms of the board members, when they expire, when they came on, and when they vacate abruptly, whatever, and how we appoint. And it's not rocket science. It's bylaws in most every board. So I haven't heard you all at all mention anything accountability-wise of, oh gosh, shame on us, we didn't know what we were doing again, when it comes to board policy. And it's shameful. It really is. And I can't tell you how glad I am there is going to be a new board seated and some shuffling going on. I look forward to that because they're like-minded people, very good people who got voted in. And to reiterate what they said, you can't appoint anybody to a vacancy when there aren't vacancies yet. And so we're watching to make sure it's done right, make sure it's done legally. And you can, complain all you want about me bringing the bad news, but I'll be here every time until you get it right. It's gone on too long, and you all need to do better. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. superintendent and as well as to the audience. I just got educated. Yeah, I've been with the district for years and worked for them there for 31 years and still working with them. I had a reservation of saying what I'm going to say here, and because of that education that Mr. Tom Millen and Doc gave. But just in case the board decide to go ahead on and do what they usually do, I understand that there is a vacant seat on the board, and also congratulations there to the ones that were elected by the people of this city. I believe that since we have another seat that need to be filled, I truly believe that we need to continue to listen to the people of this city. It has been many times that we have tried to include the parents and people to be a part of our decision making. The community has spoken and voted for 3, and that is because of the most votes. I truly believe that this 4th seat should go to the next person that has the most votes. And I believe that is Ms. Brown. Board, please listen to the people. If we want to be inclusive and want the parents and the community to be a part of this district decision making. Thank you.
Any more? Okay, item number 7, buildings and grounds. 7A, facilities rental agreement.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Geddes. I'm here this evening to ask the Board to adopt a new rental agreement for the district. It was Nakia and Brad, myself, and my superior administrative assistant, Nancy Brown, who did the biggest part of the work on this agreement. And we streamlined some things and made some differences, and we did add a little bit to some of the costs related to different aspects of rental as far as different things in the district. Our costs have increased over the years, and we feel it's necessary to increase just a little bit. And we did clean up the facility agreement and made it a little bit, it's simpler now. And it's easier to follow for the people of the district and the people renting the facilities itself.
Okay, so you want us to approve this facility agreement,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
What say you, board? Does anyone have a motion to approve this recommendation?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion, a second for the facilities rental agreement revised. Any questions or comments?
Yes, is there a provision, maybe I just didn't see it, for in-kind? So if we have an organization that is volunteering or contributing something to the district, then there's a way to not charge them all of what is.
Mhm.
Is
To-
that written into the contract? Maybe I missed it.
So it's not really written in, we would normally waive fees
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
for,
Yeah.
so if you would like us to maybe, because in grants it's listed as in kind, if you want us to change and maybe add that, but normally we would just waive.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't hard and fast, like, we're not waiving fees for people who are volunteering and that kind of thing more. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. 7B. Next.
Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Geddes. I'm here tonight to present a recommendation for the board to accept our annual district printer copier paper supply bid from Garvey's Office Products, Niles, Illinois, in the amount of $60,799.20.
You have before you a motion for copier paper, printer copier paper.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, not gonna back. It is to Garvey's Office Products from Niles,
Yep,
correct, for $60,799.20? Something like that.
that's correct.
Okay, any questions or comments? Seeing none?
Wait.
Oh. Go ahead.
You know what I'm gonna ask. You wanna answer before I even ask it? Oh, for the public, I'll ask it. Were there no local vendors that bid?
No.
None.
None. Yep, and if, on the memo that I submitted, they're $10,000 less than every other company that bid on it. And I was actually asked by one of the bidders, is this correct? That's an impossibly low price. They sent us a sample of paper, it's good, meets our specifications. Got a good deal on this one.
Yeah, as I say, that's a good, different number. I was kind of pulling for the wheeling one since I grew up there, so, but they didn't make it. All right, any other questions or comments?
Well, the only question I had was, you mentioned it, you said it's it's a good quality, like when it gets humid, because like I work for the state of Illinois, we buy the cheapest paper, we have to flip the paper because it like to curl and get stuck in the machine. You think the quality's good though?
Yep, so in our specifications, we specify 20-pound weight, 92 bright, you know.
And they're not giving us like hole punched paper?
No.
It's cheaper and
If it
not as good?
contains recycled product,
Good,
that sort
okay.
of thing.
That's good.
Okay. You have before you a motion for, copy paper to Garvey's Office Products for $60,799.20. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Item 8, human resources. A bunch of job descriptions.
Yes, good evening, Board, Dr. Ashton, Dr. Geddes. I'm Kim Paps, the Director of HR of Human Resources. And the first piece I have for you for a first reading tonight are multiple job descriptions. Do you want me to just say them all separately, or can I just put them all together and say first reading? How would you like this?
First reading, you can do it all together.
That's what I was hoping, thank you. So we have 11 job descriptions here. Head cook, senior supervisor, curriculum facilitator, director of early learning, facilitator of district athletics, director of operations, director of building and grounds, assistant director of building and grounds, school residency officer, student support facilitator, assistant human resources director, and then the human resources director. So again, these are all for first reading only at this time.
All right.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
How many of these are new, specs?
New positions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All but one, so
All
10.
but one.
Mhm.
Can I have a question? How
No.
much of this is gonna fit into our budget?
I have a
Go ahead. Go ahead and answer. He's the ex-president, so.
How much is going to fit into our budget?
Yeah. Are these all budgeted already? You're filling them, or are these new positions? I mean,
So many of
Some-
them are positions that people already hold.
Mhm.
The exception would be like Kim. If you had noticed when we did the HR report, most of my administrators are set to retire in 3 years.
Correct.
I don't have a replacement plan. So the goal was to ask for them to begin to train
In a
replacement
succession
staff.
plan.
That's where we're headed with that.
But yes, most of them are in the positions.
Okay.
Except the school residency officer.
That's the one I
Yeah,
had a
that-
question of.
That
new.
one
That's the
is-
one I had a question
Yeah.
about.
Board member question.
When we get to the data presentation, which is this evening,
You'll see why.
you'll see that we have a big problem with truancy and chronic absenteeism. A number of our students, after the pandemic, just simply didn't come back, which is most representative of the state. And then Tricia Keith, love her dearly, but she's stretched thin. She's required to do the entire county.
Vermilion County.
We need someone to focus on Danville and give her some assistance and get that
How does
information.
our chronic absenteeism compare to other schools?
You know,
We're
we'll
gonna
talk
have
about that
that.
in our data presentation, which is a little later.
That's after me. That's next.
Mr. Easton?
School residency officer, I just
Yes.
wondered, do you know how many other districts like ours have a school residency officer?
The majority. I can get you stats on that. Our district, when you look at our offices, are actually weaker than most. A lot of it is a whole department that focuses on the student piece, with registration, with finding the students. There's usually a whole department. So we don't even have a department. We're just 21 person for now.
And then the way that it's written, because I didn't talk to you about it. I only read it. Is it truancy the main reason, or do we think that there might be people who are sending their kids here that don't actually live in our district that's also equally as concerning to you?
It's a mixture of all of
I'm gonna
that.
answer that one because I have said consistently, and COVID highlighted it, that many of our students do not live here. And because we were able to, figure out where they were logging in from, there's a large number of the student population that I am going to say does not reside 365 days in Danville. So that contributes.
I guess so if you're,
Oh, sorry.
is that a problem in school districts like ours?
Well,
Or is there something about Danville that makes us different? Do you know?
we don't know, and actually it was highlighted in a report by I want to say public radio, but it wasn't public radio, it was public television. They did it my second year, that disproportionately there were a number of students from Chicago that attended Danville schools and Decatur schools, and they wanted to know what that was about. So I can't say that other people, but I know Danville and Decatur experience a large number of students who may not qualify as full-time residents.
Do they not have to, when they come to school, do they not have to have a resident address?
They can simply say, I'm living with someone, or a lot
A
of
renter's
times we have
agreement.
found that they live with a parent, an aunt, and uncle. And I know when we were doing the visits to hand out Chromebooks, et cetera, we were visiting the homes, we were told they were there. They hadn't come back. They just stayed up with their mother, or they, didn't come back, or they were in the county that they really do live in.
And last question, my last question, I'm sorry. Have we considered, there's already one person that does this with the county, right?
There's a truancy officer with the
Truancy
county.
officer.
County,
So not the same job.
not really the same.
Okay, that's it then, thank you.
Well, one of the things about, the county person, remember, we're talking the county, the whole county. Trish used to be half-time with
Ours.
us, which it gave us more services. But, the emphasis has been more on the county than it has been on us. And so therefore, there really hasn't been, except for our home interventionists that have been going out to try to find these kids and to find out. I was one of the ones that brought the question to Dr. Geddes because about kids not living in Danville, because I see off my block 3 cars every morning with Indiana license. And they get on the bus here. They get on the bus to go, I assume they're going to either the high school or they're going to Southfield. So I brought it to Dr. Geddes earlier that I had a concern about that because I've sat and watched that car. They're there in the morning and they're there in the afternoon. And I wanted to know, how are we, I know that there's a thing about homelessness, I understand that, But after they register in the fall with somebody's address, how are we checking? And we had no one checking. And that was my concern. It's because I'm watching these people, you know, and so my question is it legitimate? I'm not trying to deny anybody, but if it's legitimate, then fine. But since we do not have an office, a residency person, and like she said, Trish is great, but you one person to do a whole county, that's quite a bit, quite a bit. And we alone, when you look at the attendance and the uh, kids that aren't showing up, just stand out and look at your buses every morning. How many kids on those buses? You know, that was a question I asked last fall. What are we checking addresses? Because can we eliminate some buses and send them in another direction? Because if we don't have full buses, why can't we reshuffle some of these to change some things? And so I would just answering your question, Chris. I know I was one of the people that was behind not necessarily this position, but the question of who do we have within our district that is on top of this, that is constantly looking at what what our residency is, what our homelessness is, because I would say people will be fairly surprised at the number of homelessness that we have with our kids in this district. But we still don't have anybody we didn't have anybody that was on top of it.
Will this position also help us understand where the loss of students is, where those kids have gone? I noticed
definitely can be a
in one of our
process.
attendance reports a while ago, from the beginning of the end of the pandemic, if that makes sense, when we came back, to more recent enrollment figures were about 2,000 fewer students.
I hope so.
And will this person be able to answer where those kids have gone?
We can actually, because students have to enroll with an ID number to another school, we can tell you if they've gone to other schools. What we're finding nationwide is that they didn't go to any school.
Do we,
They just stopped going to school.
do we know that? I mean,
It's actually nationwide reports across our
locally,
country.
do we have numbers locally?
We can take the SIS data and figure out where they re-enrolled and how many didn't.
But would that be a function of this position?
That should be. Okay. But I want to give some more attention because actually, Kim, that wasn't quite right what you said. Take for instance the head cook. We actually have a cook right now. We would like to be able to keep him when the casino comes, and what he wanted was more responsibility. So we're trying to build up so that we will actually have someone who cooks the food because the casino is after him. Our senior supervisor, like a food service, right now, we consistently hire for someone in a secretarial role, and that's not consistent with what they are doing. They're a purchasing agent. And when they get here and they're expecting a secretarial job, but you're handling all of the purchasing for the district, they're not happy because it's not what they signed up for. Our curriculum facilitator is actually an administrator right now who's a principal who didn't go back to the principalship. So she actually already exists. We took one curriculum facilitator. She's now an AP in a different building. And so the one who was the principal is now going to do more of the curriculum work. The director of early learning is actually Chris Rice, who's sitting here. I think last year his position was, what were you, Chris?
Coordinator.
Coordinator. So he's not a new position. Facilitator of district athletics is actually, the most logical person is Mark Basie's. We don't have a athletic director at Northridge, and so we need someone to step up and actually cover all the buildings and hopefully try to fill his space. We don't have someone, the very important position of, I wish Basie was here, what's the person with the AED machines all over the place? Athletic trainer. So I need Mark Basie's, who's trained to kind of stretch him a little thinner. So he's not new. Director of operations is actually Seth, who was already up here. He's not new. What we do need is the assistant buildings and ground director. Mr. Truex is set to retire. Seth won't take his job. And so if we lose Skip with all of these construction projects that we have going on, we are going to be in trouble. Somebody needs to be able to keep the torch going and know where we're doing what we're doing. Again, we talked about the school residency. We know that's new. The student support facilitator, unfortunately, and she probably has a labor case. Everything on here I've had Lakeisha doing for years. Still gonna have her do it. And she needs to be board secretary as well. We just wanted to formalize it and maybe probably compensate her appropriately. The assistant director of HR, I am trying to get Kim Paps to stay. I would like to lock her into a doctorate program and make her commit to this district for 5 years. Unfortunately, she keeps saying when the rest of us are out the door, she's going with us. And so I'm trying, I don't want all of this work that we have done to be in vain and everybody walks out the door when I go. So I'm trying to find ways to lock people into this district. And so while she spends the majority of her time handling legal cases, I don't have anyone who's actively recruiting and retaining my staff, helping them with onboarding, making sure they know the system. There is, just isn't the time to do it. We have about 4 or 5 Title IX cases, about 10 workers' comp cases, and about 4 or 5 lawsuits. It's what she does all day. There is no one helping my staff when they come, and someone needs to do it if we're going to be able to retain them and just answer the basic questions. And then I need to prepare this district in the event that she leaves us in 3 years. And then that's her. So, no, those aren't all new positions. I think what I outlined were 2.
Our bodies.
Athletic director at Northridge. We need an athletic director at Northridge. Is the population growing or is it?
So with the sports and, this is not should happen, I shouldn't be.
Want me to do it? Okay.
I don't want to get in trouble because there is no conversation back and forth, and that's not what I'm supposed to do.
Okay, thank you.
So yes,
But I'll be happy to.
different names, same people, same bodies. We're just reorganizing the names. That's a
And
much
really
better way to
trying to
put
get
it.
people to
Yes,
stay
that's true. Very
longer
true.
than these 3 years that we cannot have this mass exodus.
Okay,
Very
all
true.
these jobs all these things
We'll be
are
back next-
posted. They are
yes.
available for perusal, and you can ask a question anytime. I'm sure you'll be able to answer anything
Yes.
at any time.
I'd
Any
be
other
glad
questions
to.
for it? Before we move on? Thank you. 8B.
All right, the next one we have is for summer school workers. Believe it or not, it is almost time for summer school. As we've been hiring staff to come back and work, now we're looking for summer student workers. We did this last year. The memo that you have in front of you talks about the same requirements as last year. I do need to make one edit. I have on here that the wage is $12 per hour. We need to make that $13 an hour. That's what minimum wage is right now. But just like last year, we'd like to bring in some student workers of our own. They will have to we'll have to go through the onboarding process with them upon their start date. We're looking for people that are pursuing degrees in teaching technology, trades, food service, 17 or older, a maximum of 300 working hours, and again at $13 an hour. So it's the program we had last year. We had some great success. I know we've even had a couple of those individuals join us for the year as full-time employees, and we'd like to do that again this summer.
Okay, so what you have before your board is the student hiring program recommendation, and you would love us to approve that.
Yes, I would. Yes, I
I
would.
would love for our board to approve it. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Yep, I need to add a comment. So the problem we had with, so I met with all the seniors and then they told me what they wanted to do. And so anyone who said education, we locked them in and they helped us in summer school. Anyone who said they went to the trades, if I couldn't get them out, we had them with Skip with buildings and grounds and technology. You help with the tech department. Unfortunately, summer school ends in the first week of July. So what I'm asking, and I've got our new direct, where is Seth? Operations.
out.
He's agreed. I said, Seth, can you take those kids who still want to work so that they don't have to go find another job in July? Can they work for you and with you, anyone who wants to stay for the month of July? And he is going to spearhead that so that those kids continue to work. So that's another modification that we made this year, just kind of learning from last year.
It was successful, so.
I hope you employ all Danville. Thank you.
I do.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
No,
I
we
have
don't want to do
hoops.
that. That was a joke. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Special education. Good evening.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Geddes. I'm Molly Bailey, the Director of Special Education. And for the past several years, there has been a law that if a student presents as a clear and present danger, which is a safety to themselves or others, or harming themselves or others, we must submit a report. It's called a clear and present danger report to the Illinois State Police. That's been on a piece of paper that we handwrite and then scan and email to the Illinois State Police. I'm sure that's become cumbersome to that department, and they have asked us to enter into an agreement with them to submit those via a portal. So everything will be typed in the computer. The administrator will just hit send, and it will go straight to the state police. So I'm recommending that we enter into that agreement so that we can just continue doing the process that we've already been doing via a much easier manner and the way that the state police is requiring us to do.
Okay, we have an agreement between District 118 and the Illinois State Police for communication, should we say. And what say you, Board? Do we have a motion for?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Yes, I do. Thank you. I said to myself, how many times do we do this a year, do you think? Couple? 10?
More than that. It really depends on the year. The number of times that we, typically if we call SAS, which is the crisis hotline, then we would complete one of these forms. That can be 5 times in one day, and that could be 5 times in a month. It just really depends on the year, the week, the students at a time. I would say it's closer to 20 to 50 a year, at least,
It's not 300.
if not, depending on the number of instances we have.
One idea.
What did the state police do with that report?
Well, what they report to us that they do is consider for FOID card applications or concealed carry applications. And I know some people say, well, kids don't have that, but kids can take hunter safety courses and do often have access to firearms through that kind of things and FOID cards. And they also they maintain those. And so if some of our high school students, it's not made clear to us of how long they keep that, but when someone applies for a FOID card, they would be looking through those files. So they could revoke or not issue a firearms card.
Okay.
This is a state program, not a federal program. Illinois State Police.
Thank you.
Yes.
It actually says in the thing, the use of the portal, it is for submitting a report of a determination of clear present danger as a part of the Firearm Owners Identification Card Act. So
Yes.
it is kind of letting us know in the name of it where it's headed.
And that's not onus is not on us. That is their decision. We just present the information to them.
And you have to buy.
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions? Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Schrader?
Yes.
Mr. East?
Yes.
Mrs. Sears?
Yes.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
Dr. Park?
Yes.
Dr. Ashton?
Yes, the motion approves 6-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 10, educational support. Thank you. 10A. Here we go.
Good evening, Board of Education and Dr. Geddes. I'm Kelly Truex, Director of Educational Support Programs. I have with me, I'll let him introduce himself.
Chris Rice, Coordinator of the Early Learning Programs.
And
Mary Ellen Bonton, Director of Curriculum.
And Mrs. Hummel is pulling up our presentation for you now. And we have the 22-23 data presentation for you. This information comes directly from the Illinois Report Card. So this is public information. You can go to illinoisreportcard.com to get that information. We've just kind of put it together in a nice presentation for you tonight.
All right, we're going to start off this evening. We have a lot of information in a lot of different areas, but we're going to start off with our early learning kindergarten. Every year, when students enroll in kindergarten, start their school years, within the first 40 days, every kindergarten teacher has to assess their student for readiness. It's the kids assessment, which is the kindergarten individual developmental survey. And what that information gave us, we get this every year, 21-22 data shows us that 42% of our students, incoming students into kindergarten, are ready for kindergarten, which means our teachers are, creating instructional planning activities for about 58% of our students to get them up to speed. They're just coming in not quite ready. We're looking at students and assessing them in 3 areas, from social emotional to literacy to math readiness. You can kind of see the breakdown on our next slide. A little tough to see. 12.8% of our students enrolling in kindergarten are kindergarten ready in all domains, all 3 of those domains. Looking at the chart on the far right, 57% of our students are not developmentally ready in any of the 3 areas heading into kindergarten. So any kindergarten teacher you've talked to, we talk about coming into school ready to go, and we're kind of in catch-up mode from the get-go for some of these early learners.
We just wanted to give you a history of the assessments for state assessments. So prior to 1999, and I go back to all of these assessments because I'm kind of older. Prior to 1999 is IGAP. Then 1999, 2014, we had ISAT, Illinois Standards Achievement Test. Then in 2015 to 2017 is when we had PARC. That was the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers. In 2018, the state of Illinois decided to take the PARC test and make it an Illinois Assessment of Readiness. So the Illinois Assessment of Readiness is what we take now. It is what we will currently take. However, I will let you know that the state is considering new assessments there is a committee doing that within the next 3 years. So you will see probably a new assessment in the next 3 years. In 2020, there was no assessment due to COVID. In 21, we had to postpone our assessment to the fall. And I also want to note that in 21, our assessment, the number of kids that took the assessment was not all of our students because we were still in a hybrid mode. And then in 2022, we returned to the normal timeline. With the Danville High School assessments, grades 9 through 12, 2007 through 2014, they had the Prairie State Achievement Exam. And then 2015, they had the ACT, but from 2016-17 to present is the SAT. And that was not given in 2020 as well. So let's look at the Illinois Assessment of Readiness. I know this is hard to read, but the previous assessment data, this was based on, or the previous assessment data was based on PARC assessment, so that's why we just go back to 2019. And you can see a trend from 2019 to 2022. As you can see, in 2019, we had about 15% of our kids that were proficient in ELA in 2019. Now, please keep in mind that the state is 30%. So when you hear 15% and you're thinking, wow, the state proficient is 30%. And then in 2020, obviously no test. 2021, we were at 10.8%, and in 2022, we were at 12%. So we did make a 1.5% increase from 21 to 22 to begin closing that gap. And again, the state ELA proficiency is 30%. If you look at growth, 50% of, you're going to see a pie chart later of how we get designations, and 50% of our designation comes from growth. It was interesting to look at this. The dark green is the state, and the light green is, or the primary green is the district, and this is by demographics, and this is our growth percentile in reading. Our Hispanic and EL students are performing above the state average. So we have added to the EL program, I know, and we also provided curriculum materials that connected to their general education classroom. So I think that has helped tremendously with our EL students. So you can see where overall we had a 44% growth and the state had 50. So we're not far off from the state when it comes to academic growth in ELA, grades 3 through 8. Mrs. Bunton's going to talk to you a little bit about the programs that we've implemented, trying to close the COVID gap, and what we're doing about that.
Well, and a lot of these just don't address the COVID gap. They also address a lot of the things that Mr. Rice talked about, that we notice that when the kids are coming in from kindergarten or into kindergarten, that they may need some support with, and then as they filter through our program, that we would continue to support. And we've talked a lot about these things over the last year at the board meetings. We've talked a lot about the achievement that we've had, or the programs that we put into place. The first one is letters. This is a training that our teachers have done. And it's essentially a college course that they've taken on their own time. And then we've done a lot of supporting of them beyond the school day. And then they apply that learning into the classroom, working with the students on the most current research and the best practices in teaching reading. We've been keeping track of which grade levels and which teachers are participating in that program, and it's supposed to take them 2 years to get through the program, and that's without a full-time job if you were to just do it on your own. And a lot of our teachers are finishing it in 6 months because they're so invested in it, and that's how impressive they are with it. We also have created a district literacy committee. We meet once a month, and we talk a lot about the data. We talk about our plans for improving the data, what's working, what's not, and these are with boots on the ground teachers and administrators, and we create plans for moving forward and improving things. We also have somebody that meets with each of the buildings, SMECNs. They come in and they work with our staff on reading and writing. And that's very building focused on what the students in that building needs. And we even continued that virtually through COVID, and then forward. We've implemented piloted a curricular materials at the high school. And now we've come back, and I believe we've already done that, where we've approved the adoption of those materials at DHS for next year. We also do a lot with AVID with our reading and writing strategies, lots of intensive training. We're going to that training in Dallas, and we also are bringing that training into those that can't travel on June 7th and 8th. I'm also trained in both of I can give that training for reading and writing for AVID. We also created individual plans for students that were really struggling past the pandemic, and I'm happy to say that those have worked now into what we call MTSS plans. So most of the students have worked their way out of those, and a lot of the ones that what we have now is what we would have in a normal year, where we create multi-tiered systems of support for students that are struggling with reading and writing or need some extra support in those areas, or that have some SEL, need some support with SEL. We are a small office but mighty, and we do lots and lots of PD in addition to the PD that we contract out for. And then we have the data and instructional facilitators and the literacy coach in the office that help do that PD. So we stay very focused on the ELA portion of things.
Mrs. Button, is the MTSS, is that the multi-tiered
System of support.
Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the math portion of our IAR testing for grades 3 through 8, you'll see that in 2022, we had 7% of our students meeting or exceeding in math. That was up 1% from the previous assessment cycle. The state average for students meeting or exceeding state standards is 26%. So we've talked a lot at meetings before about how we are a little behind in math compared to ELA. So that's where a lot of changes are going in place to try to address that, those deficient skill areas. A lot of our math gains, if you look back, we had some good things going in math coming out of COVID kind of slowed us down a little bit, so.
New math curriculum too.
Yes. Looking at the math growth, keep in mind math growth is different than math proficiency. Proficiency is that status for everybody in the state is kind of the expectation of where to get. Math growth is looking at where our students are performing from year to year and the difference they're making. And we spend a lot of time looking at this data, and our students, when you get a student in your classroom, ideally you'd like to say our students are going to make a year's worth of growth the year they're in this classroom. Our students' rate of improvement is actually more than a year's worth of growth every year. The problem is they still aren't getting to that point. We aren't closing the gap quick enough to get to that proficiency target. But our students are growing at a rate of improvement at more than a year worth of growth in a school year. So I did want to note that as well.
So, if you watched the board meeting, the last board meeting, we talked about a pilot for reading that we were doing. You've also hopefully watched some board meetings in the past over the last year. We've done a lot of work with math as well with new materials. So that's one thing that we've done. That's the Eureka Math support. And not only do we adopt those materials, we also have regular support coming in from a trainer that comes from that company and is assisted by our district math coach. She's been in the district for the last 4 days. We've used ESSER funding to support a lot of that. And they've been at 2 schools this week, and she goes to each of the schools. They spend days modeling and coaching with the teachers and then working with the teachers on appropriate lesson planning for that. Again, Avid Math Strategies, we found an unbelievable trainer that is a current high school math teacher and coach that works with Avid. Also is a trainer for them, and she came in and did some phenomenal training with Avid. Worked specifically with our secondary teachers. They raved about it. And she's coming back again for the PATH training. We've asked for her specifically. So they implement those things back in the classroom. We actually had our Avid coach come in this week, or the last 2 days, and we walked around to the different classrooms in several of the buildings, or a few of the buildings, and looked at how things were going. Again, we have a math facilitator or a math coach for the district, one, and that she spends her entire time working K through 12 on supporting all of the teachers in the district. As I said, we had the Eureka Math support. That's our materials that we use K to 6. We also have that for iReady, which is what we use at 7th and 8th, and we also are working with a University of Illinois professor with our high school folks that's coming in. So we have layers of support for each level. We also have started a district math committee in addition to the district literacy committee. If you want to hang out with me on Tuesday nights, that's what we do: literacy, math, Avid, and new teachers. So the district math committee does the same thing as the literacy committee. We look at data, we review materials, we talk about best practices, and then those folks go back and work with those things in their buildings and and the administrators come to those as well. Mr. Truex and I are super excited, along with the high school folks, to eventually soon, probably, we can't wait to show you the new science labs and the STEM connections that they're gonna have, because those will really help our math as well. Our new librarian at the media specialist at the high school has done a lot to really work on our libraries to increase the nonfiction texts in those that relate to those fields and to anything nonfiction. And he's also working with several of the libraries in the district as they're looking at sort of remodeling, not remodeling like construction wise, but looking at the materials that are in them and the furniture that's in them, and including spaces in them so students can not only read but also be creative with STEM ideas.
Okay, we'll move to the SAT at DHS. In 2021, we had a proficiency in language arts of 15.7%. The state was 33%. In 2022, we had 10.6%. The state dropped 3%, so they were 30%. Now, we do believe that, I don't have the enrollment numbers, but how many kids took the test in 21 based on how many kids took the test in 22? And I did want to address, when you were asking about the students like with chronic absenteeism, when I went to Washington and even when I just went to a state conference, actually the federal government is going to start doing strategies for chronic absenteeism. They stated that there's over 200,000 students that they can't find. That nationwide, they do not know where they have gone, like they're not back in school. So this is a huge concern, chronic absenteeism. So I did want to say, in 2021, we're not sure how many students, I can find that information, but that was a difference. So in ELA, we did drop a little bit with, in the SAT. So Mrs. Button has put things in place for the SAT, but I think you're going to be pleased with what you see in math when math comes up. Did you want to talk about the? Oh, I'm sorry.
Next slide.
Okay,
It's
so.
pretty much the same.
Yeah, so our high school teachers, even though letters is really focused on early learning, there are some comprehension and writing components. And so we've used the ESSER funding, and we have a lot of middle school and high school teachers now that have gotten into taking, or have started taking the letters curriculum, and they're finding it valuable just for understanding how kids learn to read and recognizing some of their high school students and what they might be struggling with. They're also participating in the literacy committee. Mrs. Cox, one of our, she's our literacy coach for the district. She met yesterday with the Smeckens consultant and developed a plan under the direction of Ms. Cherry and Mr. Bretz and myself for a plan for next year already that's going to work with them, where they work with not just the English department, but they're going to work with all of the content areas on reading and writing. Again, we talked about Study Sync at DHS. Again, they've done a lot of work. Ms. Heston, who you've seen if you've paid attention to the board meetings, she's their avid coach, or their avid site coordinator at DHS, and she has done regular professional development on bringing in strategies that connect directly to the curriculum. So she not only helps the teachers learn those strategies, but where to use them best in their lesson planning, so students get the most impact out of them when they implement them. And then again, the post-pandemic instructional plans. And then very specific targeted PD. One thing that we've really done, we brought in folks from the College Board, one person from the College Board, and she's been working specifically with our math and ELA teachers. She reviews the data with them, the SAT data with them, and she also goes through all the resources that are available to teachers. And they've prepped and gotten ready for this year's assessments, and then also for the changes that are coming for next year with the SAT. And so you might have noticed that there's some practice assessments that are going on. One of the teachers, Mr. Reed, is providing practice time for that. And then the teachers are doing little mini assessments almost every day. Hopefully the kids don't even realize that they're doing it, because they're just sort of sneaking it in. So we're not stopping instruction to get ready for the SAT. They're actually just embedding everything right into the curriculum. And then the media center, as we talked about, the updates to all of the libraries across the district, but especially to the high school. When we get to open that, when you see what we do there, there's a lot of really great opportunities for the kids to build their skills both in math and reading there as well.
All right, switching gears to DHS SAT math proficiency. Back in 2021, math was a struggle, not district-wide, but especially at DHS. We had 0.4% of our students at DHS meeting or exceeding state standards on SAT. So I give some credit to Ms. Cherry and Mr. Bretz. They realized that we had some things to fix, and they made a building-wide math goal and really kind of dove in. They worked really hard to address that situation. Now, keep in mind, I always say if a school can make 3 to 5% growth in an area, we would call that significant growth over the course of a school year. The 2022 SAT results, Danville High School had a growth rate of 9% in 1 year. So they did a really good job kind of addressing that need and making some changes that kind of, I think, are turning this thing around in the right direction. So.
Okay, so again, they're very much the same types of things. We've talked about the elementary, I'll specifically focus on the professor from the U of I that's come to work with the teachers, the math teachers. They love him. And what he's doing is working with Angela out of our office and the teachers, and they've been writing their scope and sequence documents. They've been looking at their materials, and they're picking out the very best pieces and utilizing those, and anywhere that we feel like there's weak areas, then they're improving on those, and really talking about how much the students need to talk about math and what a difference that makes to student achievement. And so that's really what our focus is district-wide, that we're not just doing math, we're also talking about math, and how we think when we're doing math, and how much that helps us learn. And then really connecting the science labs and really being conscientious about what we're teaching, how we're teaching it, and when we're teaching it.
All right, so what does all this data mean? We will go over kind of where our students are and looking at, are we on track? How do we get these designation scores? Looking at ninth grade students on track, you will see last year in 2022 that 56.8% of our students were on track to graduate in ninth grade. So keep in mind what happened in 2022. You know, our incoming freshmen had been out of school for 2 years. You know, seventh grade was COVID year. Their eighth grade year, we had several different learning platforms out of school. So coming in, you know, some of our freshman students are struggling. So we're looking at addressing whether it be credit recovery, what courses they're taking, really working with our students at the freshman level to start to close that instructional gap. How are these designation scores calculated? So 50%, I take all of this information that students obtain, schools gather over the course of a school year, 50% of students' growth in ELA and math over the course of the school year goes towards their designation score. 20% of that rating comes from students' attendance. We'll get into in a presentation here in a little bit, our chronic absenteeism. 20% comes from just that proficiency target. So it's not so much the growth students are making, but are they heading towards that, you know, state expectation, those benchmark standards. And then 10%, final 10% comes from our climate survey, which is the 5 essentials, as well as our EL students working towards proficiency status.
So when you're talking about designations, I wanted to explain there's 4 designations that a school can get. Exemplary is an overall performance in the top 10% of all schools in the state, your high school graduation rate, 67% or more, and you have no underperforming student groups below that lowest 5%. Commendable is overall performance not in the top 10% of all schools, but you have no underperforming student groups below the 5% and a high school graduation rate of 67% or higher. Targeted, 1 or more of the student groups are performing at or below the all students group of lowest performing 5%, but each group must have at least 20 kids in their group. And then comprehensive is the school is in the bottom 5% of the state. So if you look at our 18, 19, 21, this is something that we are very proud of, the growth that we have shown from 2018 to 22. In 2018, you can see we had 3 comprehensive schools. We also had Garfield at that time, but Garfield is not, you know, we don't have that school now. So we had Edison and Mead Park and Southview. We're in the bottom 5% of the state. We had Mark Demon was targeted. They were targeted for, I believe, their special ed students and their black students. And you had Northridge that was targeted for their Hispanic students. The next year, Northridge pulled the Hispanic students up, and then it was their two or more races that they were targeted for, that had a student group targeted. The rest of the schools were commendable. In 2022, Edison had no designation, mainly because they had one fourth grade classroom and they didn't have enough students. Or third and fourth grade, but they had one fourth grade, so they didn't have enough students. Liberty's commendable. Mark Denman pulled their targeted group up. They were commendable. Mead Park, at Chris Rice leading the way at Mead Park, came from comprehensive to commendable. Our state representative was blown away by that. He brought them from the bottom 5% up to a commendable school. So that, we were very proud of that. Northeast commendable, Southwest commendable, Southview comprehensive. Again, but we can talk about with Southview, we had 3 leaders, we started a new school. There's just a lot of, we know indicators moving into that, but I think we're gonna see a lot of growth with Southview, even with this year's test scores. Northridge, commendable, brought their 2 or more races group up. DHS is targeted, and guess what group? 2 or more races. So those are our new designations, and we are very proud of this. We went from 4 comprehensive schools to 1 comprehensive school and 1 targeted. So we're very proud of those designations.
So this chart here, we looked at this last year when we did this report. So this just adds 2022 onto it. And you can see our AP enrollment compared to the year before. There's some slight improvement in all of the courses except for 11th grade. And that's where we made up, we had to do some creative scheduling because we had we lost some science teachers. And we did some scheduling with dual enrollment classes, and you'll see that on the next, I believe it's the next slide. You'll see that on the next slide that those numbers went way up. So that, we believe, explains the drop in the 11th grade scores. But we continue to add those, students to those AP courses and do whatever we can to make sure that if students have a need for those, that we figure out a way for them to get them, or for dual enrollment. So they keep improving. Okay. And then now these are the dual credit classes. As a reminder, the dual credit classes mean that students can earn high school credit at the same time that they're earning college credit. Most of that comes from our DAC, our ability to take classes at DAC. And you'll see some nice increases from 2021 to 2022 on there. So I'll just let you be excited about that data.
Grade where we had the drop in our AP courses, we had the increase in the dual credit.
Mm-hmm. So you can just bask at that lovely data for a second because it's fabulous.
All right, just going to talk about our graduation rate. You'll kind of see the 10-year trend here. 10 years ago, our graduation rate was 68% of our students. In 21-22, class of 22, our graduation rate was 68% of our students. So it's stayed somewhat within the same range over the last 10 years. Now, this dives into the data a little deeper. If you take the remaining 32% of the students that didn't graduate in 4 years, of that 32%, that next group of students, if we group them together, 66% of that group graduated after year 5. If we take that group, the few that were remaining who hadn't graduated yet, 73% of that smaller group graduated in 6 years. So even though some of us aren't getting through, we're sticking with it, and our graduation rate, sometimes we only look at that 4-year rate, but our students do kind of stick with it and look at other options as post their 4-year school.
Go back.
Okay.
But the goal is not to have our students Thank you. The goal is not to have our students graduate in the 6th year. We want them to do it in the 4-year cohort. The misinformation out there is that we dummied down the graduation requirements. We did not. we matched the state standards. We had 11 additional extracurricular credits, not core credits, elective credits that we were requiring. We simply removed those elective credits and we matched the state. You cannot go below what the state is offering. So we now match our county counterparts instead of exceeding them by 11 credits.
Is that a good goal? I mean.
You're gonna get me in trouble, Mr.
I'm trying to say, my understanding is that you guys went from 40 credits to graduate to 31, which would explain a little bit of a bump in that education rate.
No, we did not.
Did not?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. We now match the
can we
county
move-
schools.
can we
We did not before. We exceeded them by 11 extracurricular credits. And that is way before my time, so I can't answer how that happened. All I asked to do was to match the county.
So isn't that dumbing down to
No,
the county?
It's dumbing down to the county?
Yeah, why don't we stay with our standards and try for our standards as opposed to saying, well, the other guys are doing it, we're gonna do it this way?
Because we don't want to keep our kids in school for 6 years, which has been the history of Danville District 118. Students need to graduate in the 4 years. Now, still, we exceed in our early graduates. Our kids are still getting out that early.
Would you not have expected a bump in the graduation rate by expecting fewer credits?
We will see that coming forward, and actually, thank you for bringing that up. Because we have disputed this information with the State Board of Education since they put out the second set of data. Initially, can you go back a slide, please? Another one? Another? That number initially was 72% when they first put our data out. They had a number of errors, including the financial data that I'm gonna show you, because they omitted our local money for 3 years. So we pointed out all of the errors, and then they changed my graduation rate from 68%, from the 72 where it initially was for 21, 22, and dropped it to 68%, and they said, well, we made some changes in how we're calculating, that they have yet to be able to explain to me. That they have yet to be able to understand and explain within themselves. So to answer your question, yes, I would have. They've changed the matrix again, but they don't know how they've changed it. And it doesn't match the initial data that I verified back in October.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
If you,
Good question.
if the school residency officer might help us keep track of people, and maybe we've let people fall off our list that we weren't actually responsible for, is that a fair assessment?
I don't know, Mr. Easton, I don't know if I could say it's because of who.
Because we don't know what the data is at all. It's a complete guess.
And now the 68%, no one can tell me how did you get there? Where's my 4% between October and March? What happened to it?
And I
It
think,
used to be that data was number of students entering freshman year and then the number of students finishing senior year.
The cohort.
The cohort. Is
Yeah.
that still a factor? We don't know.
I don't know because they don't know.
Yeah, but also it was that if that number, even if that kid transferred,
They were still in our
if they
data.
transferred and went somewhere else and did not graduate, it counted against us.
That's correct.
Because they started with us in that freshman year. So there's a lot of variables in that percentage. And
That's why you would expect it to be going up instead of going down.
It should be my 72% that they told me in October when all the newspapers were calling me about it. But I'm still fighting.
So with regard to these 11 elective credits that we no longer require in over and above what the state requirements are, our students though still have the opportunity to take electives above and beyond the basics. So those students who are wanting the extra and wanting the electives, our DHS is still offering that to the students that are wanting to do that and they could do it within their 4 years. Am I right?
They are where we have teachers. The problem is, we didn't have teachers to teach those electives.
the other thing was, when those electives were put in, originally they were put in to stop students from graduating mid-year. That's why the other electives, because we had a long discussion, an argument about that because you bump up the credits, doesn't mean it's gonna keep the kids in there. If they don't wanna be there, they're gonna find a way.
But you'll see with chronic absenteeism when we get that to
Yeah.
that.
So that was one of the reasons we looked at making sure all the requirements was there for math, science, all of it. But we didn't want the focus to be we're gonna try to keep you in school. No, especially when a lot of our kids were doing dual credit. They were going right from mid-year straight out to Danville Area Community College. And my thing, that was a crown for us, that we can say our kids graduated mid-year, but they're not just doing nothing. They're going to school. They're going somewhere. And so why keep them in high school just because these are elective credits, not what they have to have? Because I will say to you, if you look at a transcript and you look at our kids, most of them, seniors, have finished their requirements, except for maybe 1 or 2 classes by the beginning of their senior year. Most of them have gone to summer school. Most of them have done online stuff. And so that was our thing. We were running into that situation, especially with the pandemic. And when you get to the point, and someone mentioned it, people were moved. Yes, they were. And let me clarify that. People, when you get a degree, it says I can teach blah, 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 blah. I may not have taught it, but it says I can teach it.
You mean
And
the
so-
certification?
Yes.
And the teacher certification?
Yes. And Darlene and I talked about this. We used to have a book that we used to sign off every year on what we could teach, what every teacher. So when it came back to it, when I was building a master schedule, I would look to see what people could teach. If there was a hole somewhere, we may have had to move someone into another position. If you look out there, there are no science applicants. There are no foreign language applicants. And it's not just in Danville. And so what you do is you do the best you can. And coming up with, I thought, with Dak stepping to the plate for us to help us with those science areas was phenomenal. Because every district can't say that their junior college or is doing that. So no, we did not dummy down. We did not dummy down. We gave kids an opportunity for choice.
Can we move on?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, equity journey continuum is something that the state requires. It's a survey that we have to basically enter data, and you can see where in elevating educators, this shows where we have gaps. So at the bottom, elevating educators, we have small or minimal gaps there. We provide a lot to our teachers, a lot of PD. Mrs. Button's department does a great job doing that and encouraging teachers to go on for their masters and doing, I think we have national board, all kinds of things like that. Learning conditions, we have moderate to small gaps. And the learning conditions, basically, we have like our facilities and just the conditions of our buildings. And then when you look at student learning, we do have some large gaps or moderate gaps. A lot of that is due to our chronic absenteeism. It's due to lack of teachers. We don't have certified teachers in all of our buildings. We have a lot of long-term subs. I know Southview has a lot of long-term subs that are teaching, all core classrooms. So we don't always have, like Mrs. Carey said, the certified teachers that in that spot. So you can see where our gaps are on our equity journey. If you look at our average class size, we are right with the state. Our class size continues to remain below the state standard by just a little. This is our low-income students. Our low-income students have increased and continues to be well above the state average. In 2022, we were 78.5% low income. And then our student enrollment. This will show where our student enrollment is, and like you said, you can see in 2020, coming back to 2021, there is a loss of students. However, that is not just in Danville. That was a huge thing at the conferences I went to, is just that kids are not there. Like I said before, we've lost we've lost kids nationwide. So I think you'll see the federal government soon coming up with some strategies. I hope parent engagement was another one. So I'm like, I hope they get some good ones, because I would love to try something. Student mobility. This is if a student comes and moves even to another school, moves out and comes back. We are at 18.3% above the state standard. I don't have the state one on there, but 18.3 overall for our mobility. And then you can see the demographics.
Mr. X, is that between elementary schools, or is that in and out of the district itself?
That's in and out of the district or in elementary schools. It's
Okay.
anytime they transfer out
Okay.
of a building. Like if they would transfer out of Mead Park and go to Liberty, that's considered mobility as well.
So that's just the disruption of the educational
Yes.
environment from these little.
Right, and a lot of times they don't come the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see our homeless, 52% mobility there.
And Ms. Schrader, what you'll find when you dig into that number, it's not the elementary. The biggest part is we start in District 118, we go out, we're going to Alabama now, and then
we come back.
Somewhere about March, they come back.
Can you describe the 51.7% homeless? What does that mean?
Well, when we talk about our homeless students, and that's in my department with Mrs. Kuchevsky, a lot of times people will come and live with a relative. They don't necessarily have a resident. They don't have a residence. So they're coming here and they're just staying with someone. So they'll come and then they'll go stay with someone else, or they'll go stay at another relative. So they're moving in and out a lot.
And so 51% of the student
That are homeless, not of our 51% of our homeless students.
51.7% of them are coming in.
Right. We don't have 51%.
Well, I knew that's what 51% of our homeless students are moving.
Yes,
in
are
and out.
moving in and out.
And we talked about homeless students. It was around 120, I think somebody said last board meeting, two board meetings
and
ago.
we are so blessed to have Mrs. Kuchevsky. She just picked up 2 beds in our community van, and she delivers them everywhere, and you'll see her everywhere. I mean, she does a great job. And then this is a chronic absenteeism that I'm going to let Mr. Rice, because he has done extensive research on chronic absenteeism, and he's going to tell you all about how we get that number.
Yeah, so our chronic absenteeism for students in District 118 for fiscal year 22 was 40%. So what that means is 40% of the students in our district are missing 18 or more days of school.
That's huge.
It's not truant. Like, we file a truancy report for our students when they miss 5%. So at 9 absences, they are truant for the year. We ran this report, chronic absenteeism, that would be missing double that. 18 absences, 40% of the students in District 118. It's having a significant impact on our academics.
At 176 days, that's 10% of the school year. They're absolutely not even in front of the teacher.
Yeah. So I ran a report this morning just trying to dive into it a little deeper, because being fresh from the building level, you have your students you work with that are on that cusp, and you're trying to keep them from, that chronic absenteeism status. I ran a report this morning that said how many students, what percentage of our students in our district missed 30 days of school, which is 6 weeks of the school year. We were at 12% in the district.
Well, and even like the month of November, I think we have that month, I think there's 14 instructional days.
Say that again, Ms. Bud.
They missed the whole
Can you,
month.
can you come, because they can't hear you.
Yeah, so so we count out the instructional days for the report cards, that type of thing. So the month of November usually has, I think it's 14 instructional days in it. So when they've missed 10, they've almost missed an entire month of school. And so when you've I will
we
stop,
put
but
a lot of plans in place where we're looking at this quarterly, and our home liaisons, we have bumped that program up, and they are out all the time.
Yeah, they are.
You see a difference?
Well,
We're
Chris
finding out
did.
more information.
Mr. Rice did at Mead
Yeah,
Park.
I mean, I noticed one of the things that turned us around at Mead Park, I noticed chronic absenteeism was huge for our building. At Mead Park in 2019, we were 38% of our students were chronically absent. So I knew that's what was having a huge impact on our building performance. Mrs. Truex and Mrs. Button will tell you, I was so disappointed in 2020, not just because the world fell apart, but we had some really good things going heading into state testing, and then we didn't test that year. So one of the things I did, I hired the home interventionist using some of our building funds, and we were able to really make that a focus of what we were trying to address. We called it, I always told Mr. Hart, the second chance program, the second chance bus. Mrs. Johnson, if we would call home and students weren't at school, we went and picked them up. You know, we found a lot of times if a family of 5, if one student was sick, the other 4 siblings stayed home. So when we brought her in, our chronic absentee rate went from 38%, 36% to 11% that year. So
What we're working on right now, Mr. Rice and myself, is working with the principals on how to read that data and to look at it every so many days. Because I think we were getting confused between attendance and chronic absenteeism.
Yeah.
So I think you'll see some big results, and we are putting, that's part of our district goals with our district report card and every school report card.
I think it was a
School
little,
improvement plan.
it's just looking at data differently. We used to come to board meetings and celebrate which buildings had the highest percentage rate, you know, for the month, and we would hand out those banners. But really, it didn't mean anything because if your students were still, you had average daily attendance rate of 96%, you think we're doing something right. But when you start looking at the data, we still had 30-some% of our kids missing 18 days of school. That was making the impact.
So how many home liaisons do we have? If you saw such a difference.
We have 14. And
14
so
home liaisons.
there's only one elementary school that doesn't have one right now, and that's Northeast. I believe they are going to have one, correct?
It's posted.
It's posted. And that is something that we are working with the home liaisons to actually read the data, look at the data, you know, check. I know, like at Southwest, for example, they put incentives in place where if the kids were right on the cusp of missing that 9 days in the first quarter, then they would go through and say, or was it 5 days? 5 days in the first quarter, then they would work with the family, go out and make a plan with them. They would get some incentives like stickers and things like that. So we are hitting chronic absenteeism hard this year and obviously moving forward.
Ms. Holloran, I can hear you thinking, you're like, okay, let's get some home liaisons. But I'm
thinking, oh, we have these home
Yeah.
liaisons, I wanna see a difference.
So
Yeah.
that, they've helped us, they do.
They've helped
go,
us tremendously.
And I wanna remind you that when, I wanna say Laura Lee, but no, when what is the clinic, they closed. Aunt Martha's.
Aunt Martha's, yes.
When they closed and our community was going to lose all of those workers, District 118 came up with a plan to keep them here, and that's where that home, I was sitting in my office, I was like, what are we gonna call them? I came up with home program intervention coordinators, it was just something, and then you guys allowed us to quickly turn and burn and get those people to make sure they stayed in our community to service them. I don't have any more to help.
Remember, it
you know.
started as birth to 3, home visitors.
No, we had the home visitors, but that home program intervention
That came
coordinator,
with, yes.
me and Mr. Dobbles, yeah, because we were trying to save the Aunt Martha's people and keep them servicing our people in the
Correct.
community. I just don't have anybody else to, like, we're so thin with people.
No, we're not now.
I can't get you, that's why I don't have one at Northeast.
We have a couple retirees from an agency that are
We got another
interested.
agency?
Yes,
We're gonna go for them?
yes.
Okey-dokey.
Our home liaisons though are learning how to read the data as well. So I think we'll see some good result from that.
But I do know that a lot of the home interventionists have been in close contact with classroom teachers.
Yes.
The teachers have been the ones contacting them saying, look,
Oh, yes.
I haven't seen Shelley in 2 days. Is there a way? And people have to also understand, we also know how to send people out in pairs now.
Right.
You cannot send them alone.
It's very true.
You, I'm telling you,
Yeah, you're
I
right.
subbed as a home interventionist.
We don't send them, we don't send them out.
There were some issues. So you cannot. We have to send them in pairs now. So you may say, okay, we hope that teachers on Monday will give us a list that we can go out and look on Tuesday. Because we've got to sit down and talk to each other and say, okay, what's your schedule look like, so that we can go out together. You cannot, for safety reasons, we cannot send them alone. So, yeah, they're doing well.
Have we considered preemptively targeting those who are already chronically absent this year
Yeah.
for next year and
Oh, yes.
Starts
We actually
4 weeks into the school year,
Yeah.
we're looking at it.
Yeah.
They're on
And-
pace to be,
I mean, like if they're already absent this year, they're probably going to be absent next year
Right.
too.
Yeah.
we actually pulled those, and then remember all the kids I was meeting with from the high school, and we actually had that second set of group that I couldn't get to, and so I gave it to that team to say, at registration, we're gonna have let's pull them. Let's pull mom in at registration, where we can start saying, what do you need? Mom and dad, let me not have the dads mad at me.
And we
Mom
don't.
and dad.
How often do we send people to court for truancy?
Please don't.
We don't.
We do.
How often would you
I
say?
don't have that.
Well, they send out
We
the
meet with
truancy letter.
at the
but what
building level, they
happens-
meet, principals will meet with the truancy officer monthly. We set up monthly appointments. We fill out truancy reports, and then we're at the mercy of
It doesn't
They're not-
the
translate.
court
to
bringing them in and
court-
They
talking
don't
to
bring
them.
them in.
They don't.
So the court doesn't really care about truancy.
No, I'm
Well, it's not that.
No,
It's
you
just
gotta
that
be careful what you're
I think
saying.
they're overwhelmed.
No.
Yeah, I think they're overwhelmed as well.
Yes, they're overwhelmed.
Yeah,
We
but I'm
also
not gonna say that one.
started in
I see you, Danny.
We
Yeah, I
also
think they're
started in
overwhelmed.
summer school too, where as the kids are in summer school, we also target them right away to make sure that they're getting ready and everything that they need to start right back up to school. And so they don't miss, like they're not missing health records or shots or anything
Oh,
like
yes,
that.
that's true.
So that way they can start right off the bat, so none of those things are working as
And our home
barriers either.
liaisons help with that.
Absolutely.
I mean, they take them to doctor's appointments. I mean, our home liaisons are, we're blessed to have them.
I will say, just in regards to chronic absenteeism, it's not just, it's taking into account everything. It's your unexcused absences,
Vacation.
suspension days. I want to take a 3-day vacation a little bit before spring break and get a few more days out. If students aren't in the building, in the seat, in the classroom,
True.
that counts towards the absence.
Vacations count.
Yes. Anytime the child is not in school, that counts against us for chronic absenteeism.
Student dropout rate comparison, I will let this kind of just, we actually, other than our 9th grade students, our freshmen, we actually are improving since 2021, but that's our current dropout rate. I used to ask myself all the time, why are 9th graders not old enough to quit school? Why are they dropping out? But some of our students at the freshman level are, we've kind of had that conversation, being in school and what happens if we're to drop out age as a freshman, they still drop out and that counts against us. Student teacher ratios, we already referred to student teacher ratios at 19 to 20 to 1 for elementary buildings, 14 to 1 at the high school level. I will tell you it's a little deceiving, so I'm going to tell you how the state figures this. They take the number of students that are enrolled on October 1st and they divide that by the number of certified full-time employees. So we have a lot of certified full-time employees that might not necessarily be, having classrooms all day. So that all that gets calculated together when you figure full-time employees and number of students in the building. This is our retention rate. So retention rate is figured on a 3-year cycle. So if you look at 2022, it says that 86.4% of the staff in District 118, we were retaining those staff members. So that's based on, if we look at every teacher, every certified staff member who was with our district in 2019, 86% of them were still here in 2022. So we talk a lot about teacher shortage and we don't have these positions to fill. What that's not taking into account when we talk about our staff in 2019, if we had vacant positions or positions that were hard to fill that we couldn't get filled, well, we didn't lose a staff member, we just didn't have that staff member to begin with. So That's how that retention rate is calculated. You will see that we're about very similar to the state average, especially here the last few years. Teacher attendance, I thought this one was interesting. Our staff attendance is pretty much mirrored with the state attendance for staff from year to year to year. You'll see a big drop in 2022. We're at the state. We're right there with the state. 66% of our staff missed 10 days or more. So I attribute that, coming from the building level, there's a lot of things coming to that. We were in a different working environment for 2 years heading into 2022. Returning to normalcy was rough, trying to, get back to what things traditionally look like. We have, teachers are just overwhelmed and wore out because they're covering for other staff that are absent. We're covering from staff who, we have no positions to fill. So those kids are, have to be taken care of every time somebody's gone, and we are trying to account for those students. It just wears on our staff. That's where we are at 66%. Like I said, it pretty much mirrors the trend data you're seeing at the state level. I thought just an interesting side note, when we did our district improvement plan, we have goals for students, obviously, with chronic absenteeism being an issue impacting our academics, but also like for staff to model attendance with our students as well.
Salary. What you will see here is that we continue to work to close the gap for our teachers as when you compare them to their counterparts throughout the state of Illinois. We're doing a good job, and I know the Board of Education in this next contract would like to do the best possible for our staff without incurring any substantial penalties. So we will continue to close that gap. Next. Teeny weeny, but we have no control over this report. This is our ethnicity report, and what it continues to show is that unfortunately our staff, the ethnicity of our staff does not mirror the ethnicity of our students. We're trying. My favorite slide. What it is saying is that's not an accurate, that's revenues. We received $82 million. 24 of that came from local funding, 13 from feds, and 45 million from the state. Can we go to the next one?
Yep.
There we go. So, we all know my history is finance. What you will see there is that over the last 8 to 9 years, we are receiving $10 million more in revenue. However, we are collecting almost $10 million less in local funding, your taxes. Let me say that again, because that is the cover of my resume. We collect, as a district, $10 million more with about 4,000 less students, and we are collecting $10 million less dollars from our local taxpayers. Great job, Dr. Gasser. I have to pass. Favorite slide, cover my resume. Let's go, roll tide. Expenditures. You saw the 82 million and that we're having 92 million. You will know over the last 2 years you guys told us to do some projects. And you do know that there is a law that is in the legislature that you need to talk, that they want to minimize the amount of reserves that districts can keep.
Yeah, go figure.
Now, I'm gonna remind you that there were times when the state did not give us any money. We remember, who was it, who was that before? The governor, and they were in battle, and there was no state budget. Do you remember? No money. District 118, we were still able to pay our staff and pay our expenses because we had reserves. Those reserves have gone up in the last 9 years, and it's because our expenses have gone up, and so I try to keep a ratio in proportionate there too. But for those reserves, we would not have been able to meet salaries. So please reach out to your local legislator, and that can't happen. You cannot ask school districts to spend down the reserves because the state does not always pay its bills. Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Yes. Happy slides. Same thing, it's breaking down how we spend the majority of our money, and you will see that here in District 118, we spend the majority of our money on instruction. 4% in administration, which has trended down. since I came to the table. 30% in our support services and 25 in other. That is skipped all day long with his building projects and his flux capitulator. But again, the goal that you gave me was to focus on instruction, and you can see, your money always tells you where your priorities are, and your priorities have been in instruction.
And our ESSER funds reflect that as well.
Yep. If you compare us throughout some other districts, you will see that District 118 did one heck of a job spending the majority of our money on instruction and our staff, and that's what we were supposed to do. There's going to be consequences for those who fail to do the same. We found that out from going to the Fed conference.
Audits, chronic absenteeism, and parent engagement. Those are the three biggies right now, audits. So you're gonna see a lot of audits with ESSER, but we're ready, and I'm pleased.
I'm pleased to say that when they put the list up, because they highlighted districts and what they had done, and they said the goal is to make sure you are not on that screen. District 118 was already in place from what we were doing. I'm very proud.
Dr. Geddes,
Sir.
I could say this during comments, but about the needs for the delinquency, is it appropriate to say now? So in the board packet, maybe you can speak to this. Something that was a little alarming to me, and I think that this board needs to consider how to meet this serious learning gap held at the Juvenile Delinquency Center. I'll just read to you what's in the board packet. I'm sure it'll be posted for people, right, to read, Dr. Geddes? It says, student achievement data and assessment of needs identified that the at-risk student's average reading level is approximately 3 or more grade levels behind
At the JDC.
at the Juvenile Delinquency Center. So those are some of our students.
No, in totality.
So
Yeah, some of our
District 118
students.
is responsible, although those students don't all come from District 118, because it sits in our district, we're
We write the
responsible
grant.
for all of them. So we have not educated all of those children, they don't come from us, but they still are reported on our data. And what it's showing is that the majority of them are at least 3 grade levels, did I get it right?
Yeah.
3 grade levels behind.
Well, so the question I have is how on earth are you going to be able to overcome 3 grade levels in reading? Because as you know, you're all educators, you know better than I do. You cannot teach someone how to do math if they do not know how to read. And so I guess my question that I wrote down was, can that even be made up by a teacher in a classroom? 3 years of reading, like behind. Are we doing enough to get tutors over there to them? It's seriously, if that's really the number, the entire program probably needs to be reevaluated and just like flip all the tables and chairs and start over, because that's awful.
Who oversees the curriculum at JDC?
Mr. Coker. And I've talked to Mr. Coker about what he does.
He creates the curriculum and says.
For the JDC.
No, they use specific
But
curriculum.
I know what they use. I can tell you what they use. But go ahead.
So they actually work with the alternative program at KDBA, and they use, because a lot of the students that come there are in and out, they're not there, like, it's
Very
not like a
long.
traditional
Yeah.
classroom. They might be in there for a few days or a few weeks or longer. And so they work with a curriculum that works with that, but Mr. Coker also recognizes the situation of the students, and so he participates. He supplements with things that make sense for those students with that program. So he pays attention. He's he's in contact with all of the stuff that we do. So he'll reach out to us, and he knows he's very smart, and he pays a lot of attention to what we're doing. And if he feels like that there's something that we're doing that will supplement the program that he's doing, then he reaches out to us. And he'll ask to be a part of that, ask to see those resources, ask to participate in that professional development, and then we provide that opportunity for him.
And we write the grant for that. He's using IXL as intervention, which is what we use as well. He uses IXL reading and math, Study Island. He says for his very severe readers, He has a phonemic awareness and phonics program called COT Reading. He has ordered many leveled readers. He's gone to letters training, Smeckens. He goes to Avid. So he follows along with a lot of the same things we have. And he also is a special ed teacher.
The statistics are like, I mean, 3 grade levels behind in reading is, they might not even be able to read. That's what that means.
The letters program
Right,
specifically,
and the
that's why
phonics.
he wanted to do letters. But again, he has those students in that program, like, they're not consistently there. They may be in there for a week or for 3 days
Yeah, that's the
or
problem.
for a month. They're not in there like a normal classroom for a long period of time typically.
The disturbing theme behind that number, and I pointed that out to you earlier, is the research suggests that prisons are, the need for the population, the need for prisons, it's projected on students' ability to read by the 3rd grade. And how many of our students across the country aren't on grade level at the 3rd grade, then there's a direct correlation between the probability that they will end up in jail, and what that data shows is that really there's some truth to what's happening there. And so reading is so very important as we try to address.
I just wonder if the board, if we can't do something, at least if we can't do something, if they're only there for a little while, that means they're coming back to us. So I think, no, some of them, ours aren't coming
Not
back?
all of them. They're not all ours.
They're not all
It's the ones that are ours, though.
The very best thing we can do is a very solid pre-K program and a very solid kindergarten to 2nd and 3rd grade reading program, which is what we're doing.
Okay.
Because what we showed in the beginning is that 40% of our children aren't coming into school ready to do school at all.
Yeah.
And so we're consistently trying to catch up. And to get them caught up by that 3rd grade is going to be critical because there's a direct correlation to their probability to interact with the juvenile system.
I would like to see, and I thank you for drawing that to everyone's attention, Mr. Easton, and I know it's a part of your heart because you work in the prison system, so you see the next, generation of that. And I would like to see if maybe we can research if there's a national type of program, something different than we've even looked at that literally deals with incarcerated, or people that are in the JDC, something that is specific to this type of short-term, or very, very highly, just a population of students that is really at risk, like majorly, almost too late at risk, because somebody has got to have had something out there that maybe is in our blind spot, and that we can access. That is just maybe something we haven't seen yet.
I can assure you, Mr. Coker is probably one of the most researched and well-read individuals in our Dr. Coker in our district, and he is so he pays attention to those things, and so he's very on the cusp. Again, the very tricky part is the mobility of the folks or the students in that program. But I mean, I'm sure that he's probably listening, and he will probably have an email to one of us by tomorrow, or it will get to him, and he'll have a whole bunch of information for us. If not, then we'll reach out to him and ask him. But it's likely, or it might be in my inbox by the time I get back to my seat.
And
When
yes,
they
we will
come
still
in, he makes individual plans for each student when they
Yes,
come in.
this is a very different situation
Yes.
if you've never been there. It's a unique learning situation.
I've
and it's-
visited, and
yeah,
he
I've been
doesn't-
been there several times. So it's like an individual plan for.
Right.
There is no one size fits all
Right.
for this population. There's a lot of different ages. There's a lot of different abilities. There's a lot of things, and like you said, they're in and out. The mobility of those classrooms is unbelievably high. So the tailor-made, it has to be a tailor-made situation. And I mean, it's a really tough
Yeah, but they started school with us, so they are a reflection of us in some ways. We should try to do better.
They didn't start with.
Some of them did.
Some did.
They started in Illinois public
Oh,
schools.
they started in Illinois? No.
Not necessarily.
Public. They started in a public school somewhere.
Again,
pre-K.
The very best thing that we can
I mean,
do,
it didn't start in District 118.
the very best thing that we can do is really focus on the things that I've been bringing to you, that we've been talking about, and continue to do those things.
Well, you know what? Maybe a visit from Mr. Coker would be nice.
Yes,
And then,
yes.
we'll put that on an agenda item in the future, and then we'll all be able to, encounter this firsthand and move on. Anything else?
Just one last question. Are those students state tested? Are we obligated to that? If they're there during the window of state testing?
Yes.
And
If they're
those, then those results of that testing are our numbers?
Yep.
Lovely.
If they're our students. If they're our students.
Only if they're,
Yeah.
I see,
Yep.
I
Only
see.
if
That was
they're
my
the
question.
homeschool.
So it would have to be our students.
Right, okay.
District 1 and 2.
Okay.
Great job, guys, thank
A
you.
lot of information. Thank you.
It's not 11, very good.
See you again next year this time.
Food service, item 11, summer food service program, you might have a recommendation for it.
Yes, Board of Education, Dr. Geddes. I'm Zetta Peugeot, Director of Food Service. I'm here to make two recommendations. The first is for the summer feeding program to be housed at 4 schools: Danville High School, Liberty, Mead Park, Southwest, and then a satellite partnership with Project Success, which will run Monday through Thursday. The programs will run at the same schools with the summer school within the district, as well as at the Central Christian Church. I'm projecting 75 students for breakfast and 300 students for lunch, as well as the state requires that we provide a community feeding program after we've served our students.
Okay. So you want us to approve the, the summer food service program.
Yes, sir.
Is there a dollar amount associated with this program? I'm sorry, did I miss it?
A dollar amount?
So it would depend on the number of students, and then we are reimbursed by the state at a high percentage. So,
What's the community, what's the community,
Do we
say
have
it
a,
again?
do we have a motion and a second?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do I have it?
I move to approve.
And second?
Second.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just asking, so what's the difference between like Project Success and these others, then what's the community feeding?
you have to open it to the public, outside of our students, after.
For the grant.
No, okay, I understand that, but I'm saying, so if if the kids, if it's not all consumed with Project Success, kids that's not in Project Success could come to Project Success and get a meal? Is that, or is it at a different location? I guess that's my question.
The 4 schools in the district would have to open it. So after breakfast and lunch is served at those 4 schools, we would have to offer 30 minutes to feed the community in that area, in those areas.
Oh,
So, and as well as the Project Success location that'll be at the church.
So not leftovers,
That's
but
right.
you
Yeah.
have to plan for additional bodies. Is there an age limit on
It's 3 to 18 years of age.
anyone?
okay, so how do, when it's out for the community part? Or do
As
you-
far as the
I
food?
guess how do you judge?
How do you plan and project? It's very difficult. You really can't. Because one week, everybody may be in town and everyone comes, and then you go ahead and start to make more food, and then nobody comes. It is difficult to project, which is probably why the state only makes you do it for 30 minutes after.
Yep.
Is this is this in alignment with our summer school, or it's its own standalone program?
It's in alignment with summer school. So the same locations that the doors are open for summer school, those locations will also have to be open to the community.
So then from a security standpoint, if we've got students in our building and then for 30 minutes we're inviting the community to come into the building, what do we have set up for security? And you might not be the person to ask that to, Ms. Peugeot, but I guess, what is?
We are working on that.
That's the question?
Because I don't have the weapons detection at every building. We do have wands, but I don't have the weapons detection. And so there has to be a protocol in place. I think, are we hiring the we posted for the administrator. That administrator will have to be trained with their team, that we're prepared to address the community that's coming in with our students. who are
Can we
already
move, can we move any of those detectors there?
No.
there. Don't think you're supposed to just.
No,
You're not
pick
because
up-
they're movable,
Not after-
right?
Because I
Yeah,
have
but
them at the
after
high school
calibrated.
and I'm having high school, summer school there. I have them at, is my other one Northridge?
Northridge.
Okay, and I don't think I have summer school there, but I don't wanna have to recalibrate them, so we can use the wands though.
Got it.
1100.
So then the community though would need to be,
One lo-
understand that they're gonna be wanted to come in to get their food.
Yes. And in the past, I know we can also designate certain doors. So they're not all through the building, just one location in and out within that 30 minutes.
And not with the students.
Is it possible that you could bring the food to them in a to-go box outside the school door?
No, we have to.
Gonna let 'em in? Okay.
I just wondered.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? This is for summer food service program. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion passes 6-0, thank you. Head Start. No. Nope.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Head Start.
Okay. The Community Development Head Start Program is requesting to enter a contract for nutritional services with the school district for the summer of 2023 as well as school year 23-24. Their calendar years typically mirrors the district. They're asking for breakfast, lunch, snack to be delivered to their facility Monday through Friday on days that the district is open, serving approximately 70 students and starting the program as of June 5th with breakfast costs at $1.75 per serving, which includes the grain, milk, fruit. Lunch for $3.10 per serving, grain, protein, vegetable, fruit, and milk, and a snack at 90 cents per serving, which is a fruit and a grain.
Okay.
Move to approve?
Second.
Looking for a second.
Second.
You got one.
Okay, great. I have a motion and a second. This is for the Head Start for food, Head Start food program. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 12, Business and Finance Resolution authorizing an issuance of departmental credit cards. I don't have one. And I'm not gonna get one.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Geddes, Denver 118 family. I am Narcissus Franken, Director of Business and Finance. I am here this evening to ask that the Board issue additional departmental credit cards. So the departmental credit cards are used for emergency purposes and for vendors that do not accept purchase orders. They are authorized by the Board of Education in accordance with our policy, and they are issued through the Educational Personnel Credit Union. Each department director is required to sign an agreement acknowledging that they are aware of the policies and guidelines regarding credit card use. And currently, there are 9 departmental credit cards. Today, I am asking that 3 additional Visa credit cards be issued for the following departments. For curriculum and food service with a limit of $1,000, which is the limit that is currently, that the other departmental credit cards have, besides the assistant soups. And the business office, so the business office departmental credit card is needed to replace the American Express that was previously used in the business office. I am requesting a credit limit of $10,000 as there has been a greater need to assist as many vendors and organizations no longer accept purchase orders. So it is my recommendation to issue 3 additional departmental credit cards for curriculum, food service, and the business office.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. This is for the approval of 3 credit cards for curriculum, food service, business office, limits of 1,000, 10,000. Any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I know that there's been situations where, especially with building principals, where vendors won't. So, are they able to then contact a department? They will be able to contact a department or one of the.
Yes,
Okay.
currently they
Yeah,
are
because I.
using the assistance suits. Yes,
Because
ma'am.
I've heard several situations where a vendor, we're losing out on some stuff, cheaper product because they won't accept a purchase order. Yeah, okay. That's what.
Can I say with the business office, what's because, once upon a time, and I won't say back in the day, but back in the day, we would pay hotels with a check. And the district would travel.
They don't
in
do
your
that
time
anymore.
Hotels don't take checks
No, they
anymore.
It's very rare that they
And
take a check.
as a former business person, I think it's a horrible practice that anyone did that, because then you're paying that hotel up front, and we have cancellations all the time, and then you're not getting that money back. So it was a poor practice in just to start. But with so much travel happening and having to secure rooms and having to secure airlines, etc., you cannot use a purchase order. You cannot write a check to Southwest, and we're having to use credit cards. So between me, Hart, and Jacoby, we would divvy them up, and who has this one? But then when you go to check in, if I'm not there yet, then I have a group of people sitting at the front desk waiting for me to show up. It has just really become difficult to manage in the era of no purchase orders. Purchase orders are becoming a thing of the past, really. I don't know what the plan is, and I don't like procurement cards. I don't like them. So I don't know what we're gonna do. I will probably be retired. But it's going to be a problem in the future. So I wanna let you know a plan needs to get in place.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's become, and Amazon, I think they're going to stop doing purchase orders with schools, because it's become too difficult for them to manage it. So we've been doing it, and other districts have been doing it, but every once in a while, they're like, no. Random things they just start to reject. And I can see within the next 2 years that you will not be able to do that with Amazon again. So just want to put that in record.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, you're voting for the approval of 3 new departmental credit cards. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you very
you.
much. Use them wisely.
Absolutely.
There's a limit on those cards. At least you didn't come in with $100,000 or something like that. That gets a little suspicious.
That's buildings and grounds.
Yeah. And he's not on here, so that brings
He's
us
not
to
coming.
item 13, informational items.
I will try to be quick with my 8 items that I have for comments. First, I want to say congratulations to our Golden Ruler winners. Jeannie Wise, teacher at at Southwest. Elizabeth Benjamin, teacher at Mead Park. Christy Wagle, learning resource clerk at Northeast. Alyssa Wright, teacher at Mark Denman. Chris Wilson, teaching assistant at Edison. Robin Yount, teacher at Liberty. Gina Meredith, secretary at the Jackson Building. And Stephanie Scruggs, coordinator at Southview Upper Elementary. Stephen Rydell, teacher, Danville High School. Sarah Funk, coordinator at North Ridge Middle School. And Courtney Watson, coordinator at KDBA. Congratulations to you guys. We're gonna bring you here and celebrate you when we do the David Fields Award. We're gonna do a combo in May, because we have the David Fields winners coming, and so we can celebrate them again. We celebrated
But
last
for
night.
right now,
But last night, yes, they all went. Good job. On coming up in May, each day of the week, from May 1st to each day of the week of May 1st through May 5th, we're having Taste Around the World. The lunchrooms will turn into a restaurant from a completely different continent each day. North America, Asia, Europe, Africa, South America. And thank you, Miss Pascal, Miss Zetta, and then Miss Patty for helping to put that together. I do appreciate all that you do. I think it'll be great for our students. Next, Southern Illinois Healthcare Foundation, our clinic, we have expanded. We are now also including Mark Demon. Mr. Hart, can you tell me all of the schools, please?
Sure. Danville High School, both students and staff. Bailey Academy, students and staff. Northridge Southview, both students and staff. Mark Denman, students, and we will add Mark Denman staff by the end of the week. And then we're gonna put the rest of the elementary schools together next week. So letters will probably go home for the rest of the elementaries on Monday.
Great job. Next, I want to say, Alyssa Staley, thank you for this information. In February, students from Danville High School submitted works of poetry and short stories to the Illinois Associations of Teachers and in English. And I want to congratulate our students, Danville High School, Angelica Brown, Lakaya Davis, Abigail Hogg, and Dasani Lewis. They all placed and received specific awards in this contest for writing. Great job, D118. Next, I want to say, oh yeah, right, like, yay to our students. Yay to our students again. In esports, we had some students who finished fourth in and earning the first IHSA state medal in DHS esports history. Alex Kosat, Rylan Anderson, Seth Jameson, David Estes. Congratulate our Danville Rocket League team.
a new sport.
New sport. Kudos to DHS and the Buildings and Ground crew for being recognized in the Facilities Management magazine. They highlighted that we were, it says Danville schools outfitted with classmate cooling and heating pumps to replace the outdated school steam system. So, did you know you were in the magazine, Skip?
Who gave that to you?
He does not like the attention at all. So great job, Skip, with replacing our system with the reliable. He talked about we'll have reliable performance, quiet operation, and indoor air quality. It's designed to bring comfort. This is Skip now. I just need you to know how this just does not fit his personality. It's designed to bring comfort to individual classrooms. The classmate units are simple to maintain, to operate, and to repair. They are engineered for energy efficiency and noise reduction to occupy a small footprint. I said, go ahead, Skip. So congratulations, they highlighted you in the magazine.
Hey, Skip, was that AI generated?
Next, I want to thank Dr. Henderson, who is the Dean of the College of Education from EIU. She wanted our community to know about an opportunity. It is called the Bridge Project. It is a paid fellowship for educators of color and or women educators considering an Illinois principal position outside of Chicago Public Schools for the 24-25 school year. If you are interested, please see me, just email me, and I can get you a link to the application. We will certainly support you in any way we can because we would like to make you an administrator in Danville this 118. And finally, just to celebrate our work to end hunger in Illinois, our partnership with the Illinois Food Bank last Saturday, Ms. Zetta and team, we served over 155 families and more than 437 people. The line went around the school and the block. So if you don't think hunger is a real issue here in our community, those numbers should tell you that it is. Thank you for being there, and I give you a vision and you go and make it happen for me. That really, because you know food insecurity is a thing, my whole dissertation. I want to thank 30 members of our Danville High School track team. They represented us well. They were polite, helpful, and enthusiastic the entire time from start to finish. They never lost a smile. Those guys did the thing and made sure the members of our community felt welcome and no one needed to be ashamed that they needed help or needed support. That is what we are trying to teach our students. Great job, track team. That's it.
Okay, board comments, informational item, I'm gonna take care of that in my board comments at the end, right to left.
Just wanted to say it was great to see everyone out at the Northridge Spaghetti Dinner. That was really great. They did a great job. The students played very well, very good music. A lot of parents helped make that a success. Dr. Ashton was even there doing the MC work, did a good job. Anyway, it was good. Also, congratulations to those who were just inducted in the National Honor Society at Danville High School. That's always great to hear. And then tomorrow, National Junior Honor Society. Congratulations. I just wanted to draw attention to one other thing that was in the board packet, maybe for our teachers to hear. This is from students, I've been told. I asked who wrote this or where it came from, and I was told it was from students. So it's in the board packet if you want to look at it under the needs assessment, impact for Title I, improving basic programs section. So this is from students. They're saying this is what I've been told, and I believe that's true. Teachers, the students are asking for more leadership roles, but before they ask that, there's this phrase, teachers do not consistently challenge students to high expectations or foster student goal setting. So it sounds like some of the students want to be challenged more, teachers, and pushed more. I encourage you to do that. And then right after that, they say they would like to have more opportunities to take on leadership roles in the classroom. So I encourage you to do that. I think that would be great. I'm glad the students had the wherewithal and felt free to say that to us, and I hope we hear them. That's all for me.
Thank you.
That's interesting because, do we still have a student advisory board?
At Danville High School. And that actually came from the 5 essential surveys.
Yeah, 5 essential survey, that's right,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Because I know that we've been trying to get more students motivated to get involved into that, because that's how their voice gets to be heard when they come and speak, through the student advisory board to the board. And that's how we hear what they have. But I too want to congratulate those that were inducted into the National Honor Society. Unfortunately, the letters were, there was a mistake on the letters. The date was a Thursday, or he had a Thursday for the day, but it was really, and I didn't realize it until later, that the date and the day and the date were wrong. They didn't correlate with each other, so I missed that one. But it didn't take anything away from the students that were inducted, and we congratulate them to the utmost. And we challenge other students to look at what you can do and do. It still comes up another year. Also at the middle school level. I wanted to congratulate the middle school track meet. There was a middle school track meet last Wednesday, even though it ran late. But the kids were there. They were very energetic about, you would have thought they were in the Olympics. The way they were running around with the little chests pop, and it really was kind of funny because they were calling for different events, and even though they've been practicing for these events, the kids couldn't remember that was their event. And so the staff is running around trying to find the kids that's supposed to be in that particular event. But it gave them an opportunity to participate. And that's the most important thing. And they were excited. So congratulations to those and for the elementary one that's coming up. It's a great opportunity.
I wanted to say thank you again to Mrs. Truax, Mr. Rice, and Ms. Bunton for that incredible presentation. That was a whole lot of data that you
Yeah, it
crunched,
was.
and thank you for making it understandable to all of us. And there was a lot to digest, but thank you for making it digestible. I also wanted to point out one of the things that we passed in the consent agenda was the JROTC. For the JCLC, which is their leadership challenge, which is a program that's going to be taking place later. It's a really incredible program. And Ms. Corley, what is the new JROTC instructor's name? First Sergeant Powell. First Sergeant Charles Powell. He's doing a great job with that program, and he just was brand new, and he's just really done a great job. Our kids on the archery team are headed right now to Utah to go and compete, and we're really proud of them, and we're wishing them well. So just keep that program in your thoughts, because he's doing a great job with it. And I also wanted to just say congratulations. We talked a lot about filling these empties, the empty seats, or the seat, but we also have 3 people that they were elected, and so I wanted to say welcome to Kim Corley, congratulations, Alice Payne, congratulations, and Pastor Thomas Miller, congratulations for a race well run.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Also, ditto congratulations to our National Honor Society members. And a special thank you to Mr. Ryapel. He took on that task very late in the game of the National Honor Society. The students did the entire ceremony themselves, and they did a wonderful job. They were well-spoken and mature. So we inducted 13 new members that joined 23 members for a total of 36 members in our chapter, which is really great. I want to say thank you to the community for reaching out with your concerns and taking us to task. We need your voices. And furthermore, we represent you as constituents. That's our job. We represent you and your voices. So we need to hear them, and I want to thank you for that. I want to say on a not so positive note that I'm not happy with the state report card. I think some of those numbers are woeful, and I know we need to do a better job, and I know that there are a lot of reasons why that exists the way it does. But that said, thank you, Mrs. Truex, thank you, Mrs. Bunton, and thank you, Mr. Rice. Y'all are doing a yeoman's job with trying to get programs in place to meet the students and close the gaps, and I hope we see some progress over the next year. We need to. Lastly, there is a concert in honor of the memory of Larry Voorhees on Saturday evening. It begs to be a wonderful event. Many of our alumni are coming back, kids that are now having kids in college, and they're coming back to sing in the program. And that will follow an entire day of celebration of the fine arts at the high school. It promises to be a really good day.
Where is it, Dora?
High school. It's a high school.
Oh, Larry?
In the evening.
Culmination of the festivities.
That's
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Askin, and to the board and to all of you that are out there. I want to take this opportunity again to say thank you to Ms. Truax and Ms. Button and Mr. Rice for an excellent presentation. You have all enlightened me in particular of some of the things with the data that is happening here at District 118. So as I often say, to God be the glory for what is taking place. And I also want to take this opportunity to share with the board what had happened this past weekend. On last Friday evening, the Community Action Agency had its annual dinner fundraising meeting at Pastor Miller's Fellowship Hall. There were 3 young ladies that had been suspended from school
and was placed in the alternative school setting there at the agency, and they came and shared with us what that alternative school have meant to them, and how well they have been doing in that alternative school. So I want to let the board know that these young ladies are doing an outstanding job. And one of the reasons that they express is because they have been able to have that one-on-one conversation with the teachers there, and so their grades have went up, and they're doing an outstanding job. So I want the board to know that they're not with this alternative school is not going in vain, because I'm looking forward for them to come back to a regular classroom and continue doing that. And so they have assured us that that is one thing that they're going to do, because some of the young ladies that they had conflict with, that's the word I'm going to use, now they are good friends, and they're talking to one another. And so to me, that's a blessing to be able to have those young girls make that change in their life. And it's all because of that alternative school. But I also will tell you this. Some of them said that they prefer to stay in the alternative school because of the one-on-one connection that they're able to make. And so I just wanted to share that with you, because I think it's important that some of the things that's happening that we don't see at our board meeting and not able to report on, and I can share that with you with what's happening with those young ladies. And so they are doing an outstanding job. So again, I say praise God for what he's done.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Everything's been National Honor Society, athletes, everything else. Fine Arts this Saturday. It's an all-day event. There's art. There's going to be several of the musical groups, artistic groups, performing all during the day at the high school. So come on over, check it out. There's all sorts of things happening with the culmination of the special concert on Saturday night. Sorry didn't make it onto to that event because we were at Northridge doing the spaghetti supper, and it was very nice that everybody showed up for that, and they raised money for the Northridge Music Boosters. That's who I want to thank, is all the people who showed up and generously gave money to a great program, and they appreciate that they need that money next year, and to see the kids perform, they were absolutely awesome. To the election, I was supposed, first of all, it is a good thing that we delayed the induction of the installation of our officers of our new board members, because we do not have the official results yet from the election office, and unless we have those results, we cannot do the installation. So I'm just going to say, boy, I knew that was going to happen. I didn't know that was going to happen. It just ended up that way. But we probably wouldn't have been able to. Well, we wouldn't have been able to install the new board members this evening because we didn't have the results of the election. But we should by the next meeting. And at which time I was going to go over what we were going to do about the open seat. But now that we've had all these comments, we're back to the drawing board. So if I say something, it may or may not be true. So guess what? You'll find out next week. You'll find out when it's going to happen. We will take care of that at the next board meeting. Okay, so you can look forward to that. But everybody got to have a say, and who knows where that's going to go. That's what all this paper was going to be about. And yes, he said about apology. You probably missed it, but I did apologize. I said it's on me, but everybody doesn't listen to everyone. So I'll probably say it a few more times, okay? Yeah, it's on me. The open seat, I'll take that if that's the case, because I'm the president. I apologize that happened. Oversight, I don't know. fill in your blank, whatever you want it to be. But I'm sorry that we are in this position. I would love to have seen that an election that everybody voted for all the positions. And then we wouldn't be having this discussion. We wouldn't be talking to attorneys. We wouldn't be listening to all the comments. We don't want this to happen. And I certainly didn't. So I'm sorry for that. But we're going to do everything we can to rectify the situation. Okay? Yes, we will follow the board policy. Okay? But I'm going to, as I've warned people, someone's going to be upset. Okay? It might be you. It might be you. It might be me. But we're going to make a decision, and the board is going to make the decision. And which board is it going to be? We're going to make a decision on at the next meeting. Okay? Will it be the old board? Will it be the new board? The board's going to make that decision. So, just be prepared, whoever you are out there, someone's going to be upset over this. I can't make everybody happy. This board can't make everybody happy. And Dr. Geddes, sorry, maybe you can, but certainly not. But we're going to try. We'll listen to everybody. We'll do our best, and we'll see what we can do. With that, we're not adjourned because we're going back into closed session, but the open part of the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
And then we'll get the attorney to come.